I used quantum physics to boost my wealth, and you can too. I'm going to tell you something that might sound unbelievable at first, but once you understand it, you'll never look at money, success, or your own potential the same way again. I used principles from quantum physics, yes, real science, to radically shift my financial life. And no, I'm not talking about magic or wishful thinking. I'm talking about practical, observable, repeatable principles that shape every experience you have, including your bank account. And the moment I applied them consciously, everything changed. Suddenly, the opportunities I used to chase started appearing. The ideas I ignored became million-dollar insights. The people I needed showed up at the perfect moment. It felt like the universe wasn't just responding, it was collaborating. And today, I want to show you exactly how this works, so you can use it too. Wealth isn't about luck or talent or being born into the right family. It's about energy, awareness, and alignment with the invisible forces that shape reality. And if you're open to that possibility, even just a little, you're already ahead of 99% of people. Let's begin. Topic 1. The quantum shift that changes everything. You know that moment when life feels stuck? When you look at your bank account and think, there has to be more than this? I had that moment, not once, many times. And every time I kept searching for a strategy, a course, a tip, anything that would fix my financial reality. But nothing created a real breakthrough until I discovered something that completely reframed how I understood success. It wasn't a business tactic. It wasn't productivity. It wasn't even mindset in the traditional sense. It was quantum physics, real foundational science, the kind that governs atoms, energy, and the way reality behaves. Here's where everything clicked for me. At the quantum level, nothing is fixed. Everything exists as potential, waves of probability that collapse into a physical result only when observed. When I first understood this, it sounded abstract. But then it hit me. If reality responds to observation, then wealth responds to attention. If possibilities collapse into outcomes, then my financial future wasn't predetermined. It was fluid. It was influenced by what I focused on, how I perceived it, and the meanings I gave to the experiences in my life. That realization felt like a switch had flipped in my mind. I stopped seeing money as something external that happened to me. I started seeing it as something I could influence through consciousness, decisions, and energy. And suddenly, the world made sense. Why do some people rise from nothing to become multimillionaires? Why do others stay stuck even when they work hard? Why do people like Oprah, Elon Musk, and Sarah Blakely talk openly about intuition, energy, and higher awareness guiding their success? Because they intuitively understand this. Wealth is created twice, first in the quantum field of possibility and then in the physical world. When Elon Musk imagined SpaceX succeeding, everyone thought he was ridiculous, irresponsible, even delusional. But he wasn't focused on the obstacles. He was observing the possibility. He was collapsing a reality that didn't exist yet into something the world could eventually see. When Sarah Blakely visualized her product solving a problem millions of women had, she wasn't waiting for permission or validation. She was aligning her energy with the outcome she believed already existed. And Oprah? Well, Oprah built her empire through emotional and spiritual intelligence long before the world had labels for it. These people didn't just hustle. They interacted with possibility differently. Once I understood that, I realized something life-changing. I had been focusing on the wrong thing. I had been observing lack. I had been reinforcing scarcity with every thought like, I don't have enough. This won't work. Money is stressful. And because I kept observing that version of life, I kept collapsing that version of reality. Quantum physics isn't metaphysical poetry. It literally shows us that the act of observing influences the outcome. So I asked myself, what outcome am I choosing every day? And the answer shocked me. I had been choosing fear. I had been choosing doubt. I had been choosing limitations without even realizing it. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It was time for a quantum shift. So I changed one thing first: my observation. I started directing attention toward possibility instead of limitation, not in a superficial, positive vibes-only way, but in a grounded, intentional way. I began observing abundance, even when my circumstances didn't show it. I began noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. I began focusing on what I wanted to create instead of what I feared would happen. At first, nothing seemed different. It was subtle, almost invisible. But within weeks, ideas started coming faster. Solutions I had never considered appeared. A business contact introduced me to someone I had been trying to reach for months. A project I assumed was dead suddenly resurrected with a better offer than before. Money doesn't materialize out of thin air, but the pathways for money absolutely do. Think of it like this. The quantum field is a limitless ocean of potential. Most people stand at the shore complaining there's no water. But if you step in, even ankle deep, you feel the current. You feel the movement. You feel the energy pulling you toward new possibilities. And once you take that step, you're not the same person anymore. You're someone who understands that you have influence over your reality. You're someone who recognizes that your expectations shape outcomes. You're someone who sees money not as a struggle, but as energy. Energy that responds to clarity, intention, and alignment. This is the moment when my life began changing. Not because money fell from the sky, but because I finally understood the truth. Wealth is less about action and more about awareness. When your awareness shifts, your actions naturally follow. You make better decisions. You trust yourself more. You spot opportunities others overlook. You take aligned steps instead of desperate ones. And step by step, your external world starts matching your internal certainty. That's the essence of the quantum shift. When you stop observing the life you don't want and start observing the one you do want, your energy changes. And in the quantum world, energy is everything. If you hold this truth and apply it consistently, you'll start noticing that life reorganizes itself around your new frequency. Some people call this luck. Some call it manifestation. Some call it strategy. But at its core, it's all quantum physics. And once you understand this, you'll never look at your financial journey the same way again. Topic 2. How quantum energy shapes your financial reality. One of the most powerful realizations you can ever have is this. You are not separate from the universe you live in. You're not an observer standing outside of life, watching things happen to you. You're part of an interconnected field of energy that responds to your intentions, your emotions, and the meaning you assign to every moment. And the moment you understand this, not intellectually, but viscerally, you begin to access a level of influence over your financial life that feels almost supernatural. But it's not supernatural. It's quantum. It's how reality actually functions beneath the surface of what you can see. Let's start with something simple but profound. Every thought you have is energy. Every emotion you feel is energy. Every belief you hold is energy. And energy isn't passive. It vibrates, expands, interacts, influences, and attracts. When physicists examine the smallest particles known to man, they don't find solid matter. They find vibrations. They find patterns. They find frequencies. This means your entire life, your successes, your failures, your breakthroughs, your setbacks, is being shaped by an invisible, energetic blueprint operating behind the scenes. And most people never realize they're the ones designing that blueprint. I didn't realize it either. I used to think my financial struggles were caused by circumstances, by the economy, by luck, by timing. But quantum energy taught me something radically different. Money flows to people whose internal frequency matches the frequency of abundance. That's why you'll see individuals who aren't the smartest, who aren't the most talented, and who don't have the most resources suddenly become wildly wealthy. They're not succeeding because of what they have. They're succeeding because of what they emit. They're aligned with a frequency where wealth can reach them. Think about Jeff Bezos in the early days of Amazon. He wasn't born with the certainty that his idea would work, but he carried an energetic signature, an unwavering belief that pulled opportunities toward him. Think about Steve Jobs, who famously said that reality is malleable and can be bent by someone who truly believes in the vision they're holding. Jobs wasn't talking about wishful thinking. He was describing the quantum nature of existence. Vision creates resonance. Resonance attracts outcomes. Outcomes shape reality. And the ones who understand this principle, knowingly or unknowingly, are the ones who build fortunes. Quantum physics shows us that everything exists in a state of potential until it is influenced by energy. Your financial future is no different. Right now, there are infinite timelines where you are wealthy, thriving, successful, free, abundant, and deeply fulfilled. Those versions of you already exist as potential in the quantum field. The question is, which version are you aligning with? Which version are you resonating with emotionally? Which version are you feeding with your thoughts, your fears, your expectations? And which one are you collapsing into your physical reality with the power of your focus? When I finally understood this, my life felt like it suddenly zoomed out. I could see the patterns. I could see the emotional loops I kept repeating. I could see the beliefs that were quietly sabotaging my prosperity. I realized that every time I worried about money, I was sending a frequency of scarcity into the field. Every time I doubted myself, I was lowering my signal. Every time I replayed memories of financial stress, I was reactivating the same quantum blueprint that kept me stuck. I wasn't failing because the universe was against me. I was failing because my energy was broadcasting the wrong message. It's like tuning a radio. If you want jazz music but the dial is set to a rock station, you'll never hear jazz, no matter how much you yell at the radio. Most people are trying to attract abundance while broadcasting fear. They're trying to create wealth while vibrating at the frequency of lack. They're trying to receive opportunities while holding on to beliefs that repel them. And then they wonder why nothing changes. But the universe isn't confused. It's responding perfectly to the signal being sent. Once I grasped this, I began experimenting. Instead of reacting to my circumstances, I started adjusting my frequency. When I felt anxious about money, I shifted my attention toward gratitude. When I felt uncertain about my future, I visualized the outcome I wanted as if it were already done. When I felt fear, I turned inward and reminded myself that fear is just a misalignment between my potential and my belief in that potential. And as I changed my internal state, my external life changed in ways that were impossible to ignore. The first shift was emotional. I felt lighter, more grounded, more trusting. I stopped second-guessing every decision. I stopped expecting things to go wrong. I stopped acting from desperation. This emotional shift alone created a tangible difference. My conversations improved. My creativity exploded. My ideas became clearer. I started noticing opportunities that had been invisible to me before. It wasn't that the opportunities magically appeared. They were always there. I just wasn't vibrating at the frequency where I could perceive them. Then came the external shifts. Unexpected income, clients arriving with no effort, ideas that had been stuck suddenly turned into action. A friend introduced me to someone who became a long-term business partner. A small project evolved into a major financial breakthrough. None of this was coincidence. It was resonance. It was alignment. It was quantum energy organizing reality around my new frequency. When you align energetically with abundance, you stop forcing outcomes. You stop chasing. You stop begging the universe to help you. Instead, you begin attracting. You begin receiving. You begin noticing that life bends in your favor with a flow that feels effortless. But that flow isn't luck. It's physics. You're no longer fighting against the current of your own beliefs. You're riding the natural current of the quantum field that's always been available to you. Wealth responds to your energy long before it responds to your actions. If you act from scarcity, your results will reflect scarcity. If you act from abundance, your results will reflect abundance. This is why two people can take the same course, read the same books, follow the same strategy, and one becomes wealthy while the other stays stuck. It's not the strategy, it's the signal. When you begin shifting that signal, even slightly, everything starts rearranging itself. Your financial reality becomes softer, more flexible, more responsive. You start seeing yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as a creator interacting with possibility. And once you embrace this role fully, the quantum field opens in ways that most people will never experience, simply because they never learned to tune in to the right frequency. Topic 3. Why your beliefs bend reality and attract or block wealth. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize that their beliefs are not just thoughts floating in their mind. They are architects. They are engineers. They are silent builders shaping everything they experience, often without their awareness. And when it comes to wealth, beliefs do something extraordinary. They bend the structure of your reality. They alter your perception, your decisions, your emotional responses, your opportunities, and the way you interact with the quantum field. Your beliefs act like magnets. Some pull abundance toward you, and others push it away. And until you understand the power they hold, you will constantly feel like you're swimming against a current that never seems to slow down. So let's go deeper into this idea, because this is one of the most important truths you will ever learn about prosperity. Quantum physics tells us that reality is not fixed. It's fluid, adaptive, dynamic, and responsive. And what does it respond to? The observer. But not just the observer's eyes or actions. It responds to the observer's expectations. It responds to certainty, doubt, fear, trust, emotional resonance, and meaning. This is why your beliefs matter more than anything else in your journey toward wealth. They are the expectation you project into the quantum field. They influence the outcomes before you ever take action. They collapse possibilities into experiences. Think about Warren Buffett for a moment. He became one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, not just because he invested well, but because of his belief system. He believed in long-term thinking. He believed in value. He believed in patience. And those beliefs shaped every decision he made. They shaped how he saw opportunities. They shaped what he ignored and what he pursued. The billions that flowed into his life were built on a foundation of mental certainty. And that certainty acted as a resonant frequency that aligned him with wealth over and over again. Now compare this to someone who constantly believes money is hard to get, that it disappears quickly, that it causes stress, or that they're simply not the kind of person who becomes wealthy. These beliefs create emotional tension. They activate fear. They shape perception in a way that filters out opportunities because the mind is only looking for evidence that reinforces what it already believes. If you think wealth is out of reach, your brain won't even notice when the chance to earn more appears. If you think success is for other people, you won't reach out to the mentors or partners who could elevate your life. If you believe you're destined to struggle, you will find a way, consciously or unconsciously, to sabotage your progress. This isn't weakness. This is physics. Your beliefs collapse the version of reality you think is most likely to happen. There was a time in my life when I unknowingly carried beliefs that blocked wealth. I believed money would always be stressful. I believed I needed to work harder to earn more. I believed opportunities were rare. I believed that every time something good happened financially, something bad would follow. And because I believed these things, I saw evidence everywhere. I collapsed the reality of scarcity instead of abundance. I kept repeating the same patterns because my beliefs were creating the same energetic blueprint over and over again. Once I understood how quantum energy responded to belief, I realized I wasn't living in reality. I was living in a version of reality shaped by my internal programming. Changing your beliefs is not just about thinking positively. It's about rewiring the frequency you emit. It's about shifting your emotional expectations. It's about stepping out of the identity that struggles and stepping into the identity that receives. This is something every wealthy person understands intuitively. Look at someone like Richard Branson. He believes adventure is profitable. He believes risks lead to expansion. He believes opportunities multiply when you're excited and aligned. And because he holds those beliefs at such a deep level, his life reflects them with extraordinary consistency. His companies mirror his internal world. That's not coincidence. That's resonance. Your beliefs are not random. They have a vibration. They carry emotional weight. They hold a frequency that either matches abundance or conflicts with it. When your beliefs are aligned with wealth, you feel open, calm, optimistic, and curious. When your beliefs conflict with wealth, you feel tense, fearful, resistant, and doubtful, and the quantum field responds accordingly. It mirrors your internal state, not your wishes. This is why people can visualize wealth, repeat affirmations, journal about success, and still not see results. Their conscious mind is saying, "I want abundance," but their subconscious energy is broadcasting, "I don't believe this is possible." And the quantum field listens to the deeper frequency. It responds to the belief, not the words. One of the turning points for me was realizing that my beliefs were inherited, not chosen. They came from parents who struggled, from society's ideas about money, from school systems that taught stability over expansion, from environments that normalized scarcity. But just because I inherited those beliefs didn't mean they were true. And the moment I challenged them, everything began to shift. I started asking myself questions that disrupted old patterns. What if wealth is not hard but natural? What if abundance is my default state? What if opportunities are everywhere and I've simply never tuned into them? What if money flows to me when I align with who I truly am instead of who I was taught to be? These questions opened cracks in the walls that had confined me for years, and through those cracks, new possibilities entered. Quantum physics teaches us that the observer is not passive. The observer is a creator. Your beliefs are the lens through which you observe your life, and that means your beliefs are the lens through which you create it. Change the lens, and the landscape transforms. As my beliefs shifted, I noticed subtle but powerful changes. I stopped feeling guilty about wanting more. I stopped fearing success. I stopped shrinking my goals to make them reasonable. I started feeling worthy. I started feeling capable. I started believing, truly believing, that wealth was not something outside of me. It was something I could generate from within. And when this belief solidified, the world reacted. New clients came. Unexpected opportunities appeared. People who overlooked me before suddenly wanted to collaborate. The quantum field reorganized itself to match my new internal frequency. This is the hidden truth about wealth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe. You attract what you are. And once your beliefs align with abundance, not as a theory, but as a felt truth, you become unstoppable. The universe opens. The pathways appear. The timeline shifts. You stop chasing money and start resonating with it. And that resonance creates a life where wealth feels not just possible, but inevitable. Topic 4. The science of vibration, how your energy signal calls in wealth. There is a moment, usually unexpected, when you finally realize that your energy is speaking louder than your words, louder than your goals, louder than your plans. And the universe is listening, not to what you say you want, but to the frequency you broadcast. That frequency is your vibration, and it is real, measurable, and profoundly influential. Every emotion you feel has a vibrational signature. Every thought you think carries a frequency that echoes into the quantum field. And the field responds with absolute precision. The truth that changed everything for me is this: wealth is not attracted by effort alone. Wealth is attracted by vibration. Your energy signal is the invitation you send to the universe, and the universe responds in perfect harmony. Quantum physics teaches that nothing is solid. Everything is vibration. Everything is frequency. Your body, your mind, your emotions, your intentions, all of it is vibrating energy. The difference between someone who attracts abundance and someone who struggles is not luck or talent. It's the frequency they consistently emit. You've seen this in life even before you knew what it meant. Have you ever noticed how people with confident, open, expansive energy seem to attract opportunities naturally? Or how people with fearful, doubtful energy seem to constantly run into obstacles? It's not random, it's resonance. High-frequency energy aligns with high-frequency outcomes. Low-frequency energy aligns with low-frequency outcomes. Let's consider someone like Oprah Winfrey again. Her rise from poverty to becoming one of the wealthiest and most influential figures in the world wasn't driven by strategy alone. It was driven by her energy. She has spoken repeatedly about how she maintained a vibration of possibility even when everything around her reflected limitation. Her life is a case study in what happens when a person refuses to vibrate at the frequency of her circumstances. Instead, she chose the frequency of her vision, and the universe rearranged itself to match her. But what does that mean for you, right now, in this moment? It means your vibration is shaping your financial reality even if you don't realize it. If you wake up feeling anxious about money, that anxiety creates a frequency of scarcity. If you go through your day expecting things to be difficult, your vibration reflects resistance. If you feel unworthy of financial success, your energy repels opportunities before they even reach you. The quantum field mirrors your vibration with extraordinary fidelity. It doesn't judge you, it doesn't punish you, it simply responds. I remember the moment I truly understood this. It wasn't an abstract idea. It wasn't something I read in a book. It was something I felt. I was sitting alone, overwhelmed by financial pressure, thinking about everything that wasn't working in my life. And suddenly it hit me. I wasn't just experiencing scarcity. I was emitting it. I was vibrating with fear, doubt, frustration, and resentment. And as I looked at the patterns in my life, I could see how every one of those emotions had been reflected back to me in my circumstances. It was like seeing my entire financial story from a new angle. The struggle I was experiencing wasn't random. It was a vibrational match. That realization broke something open inside me. I began to see that changing my vibration wasn't optional if I wanted to attract wealth. It was essential. So I began experimenting, not with forced positivity, but with genuine emotional shifts. I started practicing gratitude even when things weren't perfect. I started holding the energy of possibility instead of fear. I started imagining the wealth I wanted not as a fantasy, but as a frequency I could tune into. Slowly, something incredible happened. My vibration began to lift. I felt lighter, I felt clearer, I felt more empowered, and the world around me responded almost immediately. For example, a client who had ignored my messages for months suddenly reached out with a lucrative opportunity. An unexpected deposit appeared in my account from a refund I had completely forgotten about. A business idea I had dismissed earlier suddenly made perfect sense and turned into a profitable stream of income. These weren't coincidences, they were vibrational responses. When I changed my frequency, I changed the type of reality I was capable of receiving. Quantum physics and neuroscience both support this phenomenon. Your brain filters reality through something called the reticular activating system. It decides what you notice based on what you believe and how you feel. When your vibration is low, your brain highlights problems, obstacles, and limitations. When your vibration is high, it highlights solutions, opportunities, and pathways. The world hasn't changed, your frequency has. That frequency determines what you can perceive, and what you can perceive determines what you can receive. Think about the stories of entrepreneurs who built massive fortunes from nothing. Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million long before he earned it. He didn't write it because he was delusional, he wrote it because he understood vibration. He aligned emotionally with the version of himself that was already successful, and his vibration guided his decisions, actions, and creativity until his external world matched the frequency he had been holding for years. This is how vibration works. It creates inner certainty that becomes outer reality. One of the most powerful things you can ever do is become conscious of the vibration you emit. Start noticing how your body feels when you think about money. Does your chest tighten? Does your stomach drop? Do you feel excitement or fear? These sensations are not random. They are vibrational indicators. Your emotions are a direct reflection of your frequency. When you pay attention to them, you can adjust your signal intentionally. As you begin to shift your vibration, even slightly, your financial life will begin to shift too. You'll have ideas that didn't occur to you before. You'll see opportunities that were invisible when you were vibrating at a lower frequency. You'll make decisions from clarity rather than fear, and the quantum field will respond with experiences that match your new energy. This is why wealth is not about working harder. It's about vibrating higher. It's about reaching a level of emotional alignment where abundance feels natural, effortless, and expected, not because you're entitled to it, but because you're resonating with it. When you vibrate at the frequency of wealth, you attract people who think like you, opportunities that match you, and outcomes that elevate you. This isn't magic. It's physics. You are a transmitter, and the universe is your receiver. Tune your signal, and the world tunes its response. When you understand this deeply, something shifts inside you forever. You stop waiting for external validation. You stop chasing money. You stop trying to prove your worth. Instead, you begin cultivating the inner energy of abundance, knowing with absolute certainty that your outer world will follow, and it will, without exception. Because vibration is the language of the universe, and wealth flows to those fluent in it. Topic 5. Collapsing possibility into reality. How your focus creates wealth. There is a moment in life when you finally understand that focus is not just attention. Focus is creation. Focus is the force that chooses one possibility out of millions and brings it into form. Quantum physics calls this the collapse of the wave function, the moment when infinite potentials crystallize into a single observable reality. But long before scientists gave this phenomenon a name, the most successful people in history were already using it intuitively. They knew, consciously or not, that whatever they focused on with intensity, conviction, and emotional resonance eventually became real. And the moment you understand this, you start to see your focus not as something casual, but as the steering wheel of your financial destiny. Focus is more powerful than people realize. Most think it's just about paying attention to a task or thinking about a goal. But quantum focus goes far deeper. It is the energetic choice you make every second of your life about which version of reality you are feeding. In every moment, multiple financial timelines exist for you. There is a timeline where you stay stuck, another where you grow slowly, another where you multiply your income rapidly, and another where you become the highest version of yourself, free, abundant, aligned, prosperous. These timelines already exist as potential. They are not fantasies. They are quantum possibilities waiting for your focus to bring them into the physical world. This is why two people can start with the same resources, the same opportunities, the same skills, and yet one becomes wildly successful while the other remains stagnant. It's not intelligence, it's not luck, it's focus. One person is feeding the timeline of expansion, while the other is feeding the timeline of limitation. One is collapsing the reality of abundance, while the other is collapsing the reality of scarcity. Look at someone like Elon Musk. Whether you admire him or disagree with him, you cannot deny one thing. The intensity of his focus collapses realities that seem impossible. When he decided humanity could travel to Mars, there was no reasonable evidence to support that vision. Financially, it was absurd. Logistically, it was impossible. Yet he focused relentlessly on that timeline. He fed it with conviction, action, passion, and certainty. While the world focused on why it wouldn't work, he focused on why it must. That focus collapsed the probability wave into a physical outcome. SpaceX rockets landing upright on drones in the middle of the ocean, something the world once said was science fiction. That is the power of focus. It takes the improbable and makes it inevitable. The same principle applies to wealth. The moment you focus on thriving instead of surviving, your energy shifts. The moment you focus on creating instead of worrying, your vibration rises. The moment you focus on opportunity instead of obstacles, your perception changes and you begin to notice pathways that were invisible before. Focus determines what you see. What you see determines how you act. How you act determines what becomes real. There was a period in my life when my focus was scattered everywhere. One day I believed in abundance. The next day I doubted everything. 1 hour I felt unstoppable. The next I felt defeated. And because my focus kept oscillating between possibility and fear, my financial results oscillated too. Nothing stabilized. Nothing grew consistently. I wasn't collapsing a timeline. I was confusing the universe with mixed signals. And mixed signals create mixed outcomes. Everything changed when I finally understood that focus is not something you give randomly. It's something you choose strategically. So I began focusing intentionally on the version of myself that was already wealthy. Not the version who was trying, struggling, or hoping. The version who was thriving. The version who was clear. The version who believed she was meant for more. The version who walked into every room with purpose instead of insecurity. And the more I focused on that version of myself, the more real it became. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't pretending. It was collapsing a timeline through clarity, emotional resonance, and quantum alignment. At first, the changes were subtle. I felt calmer when making decisions. I felt more grounded in who I was becoming. I stopped doubting myself every time something didn't work immediately. Then the external world began shifting too. Opportunities that didn't exist before began appearing. Collaborations opened. Unexpected income arrived. A project I thought was dead came back bigger than before. These weren't random events. They were the physical evidence of a new timeline solidifying. Focus is not about forcing outcomes. It's about feeding the possibility you want until it becomes the only outcome that makes sense. It's about choosing your future so clearly that your energy begins pulling you toward it. This is why people like Jim Carrey used visualization so powerfully. When he sat on Mulholland Drive imagining directors calling him with million-dollar roles, he wasn't dreaming. He was focusing. He was collapsing the timeline where he was successful into his present moment by emotionally experiencing it before it arrived. And years later, reality aligned with the focus he had held so consistently. Your focus also determines what you reject. When you are focused on abundance, you naturally reject scarcity-based decisions. You stop settling for low-frequency opportunities. You stop accepting relationships, jobs, and environments that keep you small. Your focus acts like a filter that removes anything that doesn't match the future you are choosing. This is quantum alignment in action. When you focus on the timeline where you are wealthy, you automatically stop feeding the timeline where you are not. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Focus is not just thought, it's emotional commitment. You must feel your focus. You must embody it. You must live it internally, long before it manifests externally. Your focus becomes magnetic only when it is emotionally charged. A weak focus creates weak results. A powerful focus creates powerful results. Imagine the quantum field as a vast ocean of potential. Your focus is the anchor you drop into the version of reality you want. The deeper the anchor goes, the stronger the emotional intensity, the more unshakable that reality becomes. Once your anchor is set, life begins rearranging itself to bring you into alignment with that outcome. People, ideas, intuition, synchronicities, resources, they all appear because you chose a timeline and committed your energy to it. This is why I always tell people, be careful what you focus on. Not because of superstition, but because of physics. Every worry you indulge feeds a timeline. Every doubt you replay strengthens a version of reality you don't want. Every fear you focus on becomes fuel for the very outcome you're trying to avoid. The universe cannot distinguish between the energy of desire and the energy of fear. It only responds to the intensity of your focus. So if you focus more intensely on what you hope won't happen than what you want to create, scarcity collapses faster than abundance. But when you shift fully, when your focus becomes unwavering, intentional, embodied, the change is undeniable. You begin to walk like someone who knows where they're going. You speak like someone who trusts their path. You act like someone who expects good things to happen. And the universe responds with situations that match that confidence. The timeline you feed becomes the life you live. The focus you choose becomes the wealth you create. Topic 6. The quantum identity. Becoming the version of you that money is already looking for. There comes a moment in your journey toward abundance when you realize that the most powerful transformation you can make is not external, it's internal. It's not the strategy, not the opportunity, not the timing, not the economy. It's the identity you choose to embody. Your identity is the command center of your existence. It determines how you interpret the world, how you respond to challenges, how you perceive opportunities, and how you interact with the quantum field. The identity you hold is the frequency you broadcast, and the frequency you broadcast determines the wealth you receive. This truth changed my life more profoundly than anything else. You do not attract what you want. You attract who you are, and the quantum field responds not to your wishes, but to your identity. Identity is the invisible architecture of your reality. It shapes your behaviors, your expectations, your emotions, your habits, and your financial outcomes. Most people live with an identity that was shaped by childhood, by their environment, by society, by fear, by experiences that imprinted beliefs on them long before they were aware of what was happening. They inherit an identity of scarcity, of limitation, of playing small, of survival, and then they wonder why abundance feels distant. But abundance cannot flow into an identity that is not aligned with it. The universe doesn't withhold wealth as punishment. It simply mirrors the identity you bring into the quantum field. This is why people who win the lottery almost always lose the money within a few years. Their identity is still rooted in scarcity. Their consciousness never expanded to match the level of abundance they received. The money arrived, but the identity that could sustain it never existed. They didn't become the version of themselves who naturally attracts wealth, so the wealth slipped through their fingers. This isn't about luck, it's about resonance. If the identity and the outcome do not match, the outcome cannot remain. On the other hand, look at people like Sarah Blakely, who built Spanx into a billion-dollar empire without investors, without business training, without a roadmap. Her identity was anchored in possibility. She saw herself as someone who could solve a problem, create a new market, and succeed even when she had no evidence that she could. That identity shaped her choices. It shaped her confidence. It shaped the way she communicated, pitched her idea, and held her ground in rooms where she could have easily felt inferior. Her identity collapsed a timeline of abundance into reality because she became the version of herself that abundance naturally gravitates toward. Identity is not a description of who you currently are. It is a declaration of who you choose to be. And when your chosen identity aligns with wealth, the universe responds immediately. The shift can feel subtle at first. You start making decisions you wouldn't have made before. You start speaking with more certainty. You start holding yourself with more confidence. You stop tolerating relationships, environments, and habits that drain your energy. You begin to feel the vibration of abundance not as a distant dream, but as something that feels natural in your body, something familiar, something inevitable. And when abundance feels familiar, it flows with ease. The quantum field operates on frequencies, and identity is the frequency's source code. Your identity is the energetic signature that interacts with possibility. When you choose an abundant identity, you tune yourself to a new station. Suddenly, you begin perceiving opportunities you were blind to. You notice doors that were invisible to you before. You take actions that previously felt intimidating. You meet people whose energy aligns with expansion. You say yes to things that once scared you, and no to things that once limited you. The world reorganizes itself around your new identity because your new identity broadcasts a different signal into the quantum field. There was a point in my life when my identity was completely misaligned with abundance. I wanted wealth desperately, but I lived inside an identity of fear, doubt, and unworthiness. I saw myself as someone who struggled, someone who was always behind, someone who had to prove themselves, someone who had to work 10 times harder just to keep up. That identity shaped every decision I made. It shaped every financial mistake. It shaped every opportunity I rejected out of fear. And it shaped every moment when I said, I can't, even when I could. Money wasn't avoiding me. I was avoiding the version of myself who could hold it. The shift began when I asked myself one life-changing question. Who is the version of me that wealth is already looking for? Not the version of me who hopes for money. Not the version of me who feels undeserving. Not the version of me who is stuck in old patterns. But the version who is wealthy. The version who is calm around money. The version who trusts herself. The version who expects opportunities. The version who makes decisions from expansion rather than fear. The version who carries abundance in her posture, in her voice, in her energy, in her beliefs. Once I identified that version of myself, everything changed. I didn't wait to become abundant. I began embodying abundance. I acted like her. I thought like her. I made decisions like her. I spoke like her. I envisioned my future through her eyes. And the more I embodied that identity, the more natural it felt. It wasn't pretending. It wasn't delusion. It was alignment. I was collapsing the timeline where I was wealthy, not by forcing reality, but by becoming the person who naturally lived in that reality. And slowly, then suddenly, the external world began catching up. This is the part most people misunderstand. You don't wait for wealth to appear before you become the wealthy version of yourself. You become the wealthy version first, and then the wealth appears. The identity precedes the reality. The internal frequency precedes the external manifestation. This is why wealthy people often say, success is an inside job. They're not being poetic. They're describing quantum mechanics. The identity you embody sends a vibration into the field, and the field mirrors it with astonishing accuracy. Think about the companies that became giants because their founders embodied identities that transcended logic. Amazon, Tesla, Apple, Netflix. Each one was led by someone who stepped into an identity far larger than their circumstances. They didn't wait for validation. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for proof. They embodied the identity of a visionary, a creator, a leader, a disruptor. And the world eventually reflected that identity back to them with massive financial success. Their results were not accidents. They were quantum responses. When you commit to your quantum identity, you stop negotiating with your potential. You stop shrinking yourself to fit the past. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You step into a higher frequency where abundance is not only possible, it is expected. And the moment you expect abundance, it begins moving toward you. Not because of wishful thinking, but because the quantum field is responding to the identity you hold. You become magnetic. You become intentional. You become aligned. And wealth becomes a natural consequence of the person you've chosen to be. Identity is not just who you are today. Identity is the creator of who you become. And when you choose the identity of someone who is already wealthy, already abundant, already aligned with prosperity, the universe begins collapsing that version of reality into your life with speed, precision, and a sense of inevitability. This is the quantum identity. This is the self the universe has been waiting for you to remember. Topic 7. The Quantum Action Principle. Why small steps trigger massive financial shifts? There comes a point in every transformation where understanding is no longer enough. Inspiration is no longer enough. Even belief, as powerful as it is no longer enough. Because the quantum field responds not only to who you are internally, but also to the physical actions that express that internal identity. This is where most people misunderstand manifestation and abundance. They believe it's only about energy, only about thought, only about emotion. But quantum alignment is both energetic and physical. It is the convergence of vibration and movement. Without action, even the highest frequency remains dormant. But with action, even the smallest step can trigger a chain of events that alters your financial reality forever. Quantum physics teaches that energy in motion creates momentum. The moment you act, you generate waves that expand far beyond what you can see. These waves interact with the field, creating ripple effects that align with your intention. What looks like a tiny decision in your life, a phone call, an email, a conversation, a bold yes, or even a courageous no, can collapse a timeline that was previously inaccessible. This is why so many people say that their biggest breakthroughs came from moments that didn't seem significant at all. A single step created a quantum cascade. Let me give you an example you already know. Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon expecting it to become one of the most powerful companies on the planet. He took a single step. He followed one insight. He acted on one pattern he noticed in the market. But the key wasn't the idea. It was his movement. His willingness to take the first step aligned him with a timeline of exponential abundance. That step sent a vibrational signal into the field that said, "I am ready." And the universe responded in ways he could never have predicted. This is the quantum action principle. Small steps generate disproportionate outcomes. The same was true for Sarah Blakely when she cut the feet off her pantyhose and unknowingly created a billion-dollar product. She didn't know she was launching an empire. She took one simple action based on a moment of inspiration. One cut, one prototype, one step. And that step collapsed the version of reality where she remained unknown into the version where she became the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. People see her success now and think it must have required genius. But it required something far more powerful: aligned action. Most people don't understand this principle. They wait for clarity. They wait for confidence. They wait for a perfect plan. But the quantum field doesn't reward waiting. It rewards movement. You gain clarity by moving towards your vision, not by sitting still. Confidence is built through action, not contemplation. The path reveals itself only once you have taken the step that signals your readiness. The universe doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to commitment. There was a time in my life when I believed that in order to change my financial reality, I needed a massive breakthrough. I thought I needed a new career, a huge opportunity, or a dramatic shift in circumstances. But when I began studying quantum principles more deeply, I realized that breakthroughs rarely begin as breakthroughs. They begin as small, intentional steps that build momentum. A tiny shift in vibration combined with a simple action can redirect your entire life. So I experimented. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, I took small steps that aligned with the identity I was building. I reached out to someone I admired. I invested in myself, even though I felt nervous. I said yes to an opportunity that scared me, but felt aligned. I said no to something that drained my energy. I started creating instead of consuming. And each action, no matter how small, generated a new ripple in my financial reality. Within weeks, I noticed something remarkable. Opportunities that I had been chasing for months suddenly began moving toward me. Conversations opened doors I didn't know existed. Projects that felt stagnant began gaining momentum. Money started flowing in unexpected ways. None of these results came from a single giant leap. They came from dozens of small steps that shifted my frequency. Each step collapsed a new possibility into existence. Quantum action isn't just movement. It is movement infused with intention, belief, and identity. When a fearful person takes action, it often leads nowhere because the underlying frequency contradicts the desired outcome. But when an aligned person, someone rooted in abundance, clarity, and purpose, takes even the smallest action, the universe amplifies it. The field reorganizes, timelines shift, energy accelerates. What begins as a small step becomes a gateway to exponential results. Think about companies like Airbnb, Netflix, and Tesla. Every one of them began as something small, even fragile. Ideas that didn't look powerful at first, experiments that could have failed. But the founders took aligned action. They didn't wait for approval or certainty. They took the step that matched their identity, and the quantum field rewarded their movement with doors that only become visible to those who are willing to act. This principle is so important because many people sabotage themselves by believing they must first feel ready. But readiness is an illusion. If you wait to feel ready, you will wait your entire life. Readiness is something you become after you act, not before. The quantum field doesn't require perfection. It requires participation. The moment you step forward, you activate timelines that would remain dormant forever if you stayed still. People often look at wealthy individuals and assume they have something special: intelligence, resources, connections. But what they truly have is a relationship with action. They move, they try, they learn, they adjust, they take steps even when they don't have guarantees. And because they move, the universe moves with them. Wealth is attracted to movement. Prosperity flows to those who create vibrational and physical momentum. If you look back at your own life, you'll find moments where a single decision, a single conversation, a single leap led to an outcome far greater than the size of the action itself. That wasn't coincidence. It was quantum cause and effect. Energy amplified, momentum accelerated. The field responded in your favor because you demonstrated readiness through movement. You don't need a massive action to create a massive shift. You need an aligned action. The quantum field magnifies alignment, not effort. A small step taken from fear collapses nothing. A small step taken from abundance collapses everything. It is the energetic signature behind the action that determines its impact. The universe responds when you move like the person you are becoming, not the person you are leaving behind. When you take steps from your future identity, your future begins rushing toward you. When you move as the wealthier version of yourself, wealth moves toward you. The quantum field rewards courage, alignment, and intention. And this is the truth that changes everything. The moment you act in alignment with your highest identity, you become unstoppable. You enter a feedback loop of expansion. Every step makes the next step easier. Every win creates momentum. Every aligned choice generates new pathways. And before you know it, the life you once dreamed of begins to materialize, not through force, but through energetic coherence and consistent action. The quantum action principle reminds you that your destiny is not built in a single day. It is built in moments, in decisions, in steps that seem small but carry the energy of your entire future within them. Your life shifts the moment you step into alignment because the universe recognizes the signal of someone who is ready to receive. Topic 8. Aligning with the abundant field. How to tap into the universal flow of prosperity. There is a moment in your journey when everything begins to click. Not because your circumstances suddenly changed, but because your internal alignment finally matched the reality you've been trying to create. This is when you begin to understand that abundance isn't something you chase. Abundance is something you tune into. Prosperity has always been flowing through the universe like a river of possibility, circulating through people, businesses, ideas, markets, innovation, creativity, and natural expansion. The question is not whether abundance exists. The question is, are you aligned with it? The abundant field is real, and it's everywhere. Quantum physics reveals that the universe is filled with energy, frequency, and potential. There is no lack in the quantum field, only infinite possibilities waiting for consciousness to organize them into form. Scarcity isn't a universal truth, it's a human perception. Abundance isn't something the universe gives randomly, it's a resonance, a state of coherence, a vibrational connection between your internal world and the limitless field of potential around you. When you align with this field, life begins to unfold in ways that feel almost orchestrated. Synchronicities multiply. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. You feel guided, supported, connected. Wealth begins to feel like a natural extension of who you are rather than something you fight for. Look at companies like Apple, Google, and Tesla. They don't chase success. They align with innovation, with expansion, with possibility. They exist in a constant state of exploring what is possible rather than fearing what could go wrong. They operate in resonance with abundance because they are tuned into the future rather than trapped in the past. Their leaders are not reacting to scarcity. They are creating from abundance. This alignment with possibility is what allows them not only to grow, but to transform entire industries. Their success is not the result of luck. It is the result of energetic coherence with the abundant field. But what does alignment actually mean? Alignment is the harmony between your thoughts, emotions, identity, and actions. It's the state where what you want, what you believe, what you feel, and what you do all vibrate at the same frequency. Most people don't achieve abundance because they are internally fragmented. They want more money, but they believe money is stressful. They desire success, but they fear being seen. They dream of a bigger life, but they doubt their ability to handle it. They speak about abundance, but they act from scarcity. This internal conflict creates static in the signal they send into the quantum field, and static disrupts the manifestation of prosperity. Alignment removes the static. Alignment amplifies your signal. Alignment creates coherence, a powerful vibrational state that the universe responds to with absolute precision. When you are aligned, you stop feeling like you're pushing against reality. Instead, it feels like reality begins cooperating with you. You stop chasing opportunities. Opportunities start finding you. You stop fighting for results. Results flow toward you because your frequency matches the outcomes you desire. There was a time when I didn't understand alignment. I believed that if I worked harder, I would attract more abundance. So I worked more, stressed more, pushed more. But the harder I fought, the more resistance I felt. I wasn't aligned with abundance. I was aligned with struggle. My energy said, I must fight to survive. So the universe reflected more situations that reinforced that message. It wasn't until I shifted internally that my external results began to change. When I stopped focusing on lack and started aligning with possibility, something miraculous happened. I began to feel guided rather than lost. I began to feel supported rather than overwhelmed. And my financial reality started to expand, not because I was working harder, but because I was aligned with a frequency that naturally attracts prosperity. One of the clearest examples of alignment is Oprah, who spent her entire career operating from a state of emotional coherence. She aligned with empathy, with purpose, with impact. She wasn't focused on fame or fortune, she was focused on contribution. And that aligned her with a universal flow of abundance that manifested in ways she could never have predicted. When she followed what felt aligned, opportunities exploded. Networks grew, wealth multiplied. Her alignment created a gravitational field that drew success to her, not because she chased it, but because she resonated with it. Alignment isn't about perfection, it's about direction. It's about choosing the frequency of abundance over the frequency of fear. It's about choosing expansion over contraction. It's about trusting your intuition instead of your doubts. It's about tuning your internal state, not to your circumstances, but to your vision. When you align with the abundant field, you begin to feel a quiet confidence inside you, a knowing that prosperity is not a dream, but a natural outcome of your vibration. Decisions feel easier. Opportunities feel clearer. You stop second-guessing yourself because your inner compass becomes stronger than external noise. But alignment requires presence. It requires awareness of how you feel in every moment, because your emotions are the strongest indicators of your alignment with abundance. When you feel peace, gratitude, excitement, inspiration, trust, or curiosity, you are vibrating at the frequency of abundance. When you feel fear, scarcity, guilt, or hesitation, you are tuning into the frequency of lack. Neither frequency is right or wrong. They simply attract different realities. The key is learning how to shift your emotional state into alignment with abundance more consistently. This is why so many wealthy individuals practice meditation, visualization, gratitude, grounding rituals, and mindfulness. It's not spiritual fluff. It's alignment training. It recalibrates their frequency. It strengthens their awareness. It helps them stay tuned to the abundant field so they can continue receiving inspiration, ideas, and opportunities. They don't meditate to escape reality. They meditate to create it. They visualize not to fantasize, but to align. They practice gratitude not to feel good, but to stabilize their vibrational signal. When you align with the abundant field, life begins to feel different. You stop feeling rushed. You stop feeling anxious. You stop feeling like you're behind. Instead, you feel in sync with a rhythm that is guiding you. You feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, a flow of intelligence, creativity, and prosperity that is always moving and always expanding. You feel connected to inspiration instead of forcing ideas. You feel drawn to certain actions, certain people, certain opportunities. You feel the momentum building beneath the surface, even before results appear. And then, something remarkable happens. You begin receiving not just money, but clarity. Not just opportunities, but wisdom. Not just results, but a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Because abundance is not just about wealth. It's about expansion. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that can hold more, create more, impact more, experience more. The abundant field isn't offering you money. It's offering you a new identity, a new timeline, a new reality, one that reflects the highest frequency of who you can become. When you align with abundance, you stop letting the past define your future. You stop letting old stories dictate new opportunities. You stop letting fear choose your path. Alignment frees you. It elevates you. It awakens the part of you that always knew you were meant for more. And as you embody this frequency, wealth becomes a natural response, not a forced achievement. The abundant field is always available. The universe is always expanding. Prosperity is always circulating. Nothing is lacking except alignment. And when you align, everything begins to move in your favor. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you finally become coherent with the source of all abundance. Topic 9. The Quantum Money Loop. How your emotions circulate wealth back to you. There is a hidden mechanism beneath every financial breakthrough. Something so subtle, so powerful, that most people never realize it is shaping their wealth every single day. This mechanism is emotional circulation. The emotions you feel and the emotions you emit are not passive internal experiences. They are energetic signals that travel through the quantum field, interact with the frequencies around you, and return to you amplified. In the same way that a boomerang returns to the person who throws it, your emotional energy returns to you as experiences, opportunities, obstacles, or abundance. This is the quantum money loop. And once you understand it, you begin to see that wealth is not merely a financial process. It is an emotional one. Quantum physics and neuroscience both show us that emotions alter energy fields. Every emotion you feel influences your electromagnetic signature. Gratitude expands your field. Fear contracts it. Trust stabilizes it. Anxiety destabilizes it. When your field expands, you attract more. When it contracts, you repel. It is simple and profound. Your emotional state determines the reality you interact with. This is why two people can be given the exact same opportunity yet experience completely different outcomes. One is emotionally open and receives abundance. The other is emotionally blocked and receives limitation. The opportunity was the same, but the emotional frequency was not. We see this clearly in the lives of the most successful entrepreneurs and creators. Consider someone like Walt Disney. He faced endless rejections, financial disasters, betrayals, and failures. Yet he maintained a level of emotional resilience that allowed him to keep envisioning the impossible. His emotional field expanded even when logic told him to quit. That emotional expansion kept the quantum money loop open. Ideas flowed, momentum returned, opportunities reappeared, investors came back, and eventually his vision reshaped the entertainment industry. But none of that would have happened if his emotional frequency had collapsed under pressure. The quantum field was responding not to his circumstances, but to his emotional state. The same applies to every ordinary person who has ever transformed their financial life. When someone shifts from anxiety to trust, from fear to courage, from frustration to clarity, they change their vibrational signal. And when their signal changes, the quantum money loop begins to return new experiences that match the new frequency. Money flows differently. People respond differently. Ideas come faster. Synchronicities multiply. The world opens. But the opposite is also true. Whenever you feel fear around money, your field contracts. That contraction sends a signal of scarcity into the quantum field, and the field responds by reflecting scarcity back to you. Bills pile up, unexpected expenses appear, opportunities fall through. You feel stuck, helpless, and overwhelmed. Not because the universe is against you, but because your emotional frequency is collapsing your reality into a version where scarcity feels inevitable. This is the part most people struggle to accept. Your financial results are emotional echoes. I had a moment in my own journey where this truth hit me like a wave. I was in a cycle of financial stress, waiting for things to improve before allowing myself to feel better. But the more I waited, the worse things became. I didn't realize that my emotional state was reinforcing the very reality I was trying to escape. One day, while reflecting on the patterns in my life, something clicked. I saw that every time I felt anxious about money, something negative followed. It wasn't random, it was resonance. My emotions were collapsing timelines of scarcity because I was emotionally aligned with fear. So I made a radical decision. Instead of waiting for external results to change my emotions, I changed my emotions to alter my external results. I began practicing gratitude even when nothing seemed good. I began feeling abundant even when my bank account said otherwise. I chose trust over panic. I chose expansion over contraction. And almost immediately, the quantum money loop responded. Unexpected income arrived. Delayed payments came through. A new opportunity emerged from a conversation I had forgotten about. The world didn't magically transform. I did. And the world responded accordingly. The quantum money loop operates like this. Your emotions are the currency you invest into the field, and the field returns experiences that match the emotional investment. When you feel wealth internally, wealth finds you externally. When you feel fear internally, fear finds you externally. When you feel open internally, opportunities open externally. It is all connected. The emotional and quantum worlds are reflections of each other. Look at companies like Patagonia, Zappos, or Google, organizations built on emotional values like innovation, trust, creativity, and contribution. These emotional frequencies attract not only employees who resonate with the mission, but also customers who feel connected to the brand. The emotional field of the company becomes a magnet for prosperity. Their culture generates coherence. That coherence creates abundance. Their success is not accidental. It is emotional resonance amplified through the quantum field. What most people don't realize is that your personal emotional field works the same way. When you embody emotions like confidence, excitement, gratitude, and optimism, your energy becomes magnetic. People feel drawn to you. They want to work with you, refer you, collaborate with you. They feel uplifted in your presence. They trust you. They sense possibility around you. And when people sense possibility, they naturally offer you opportunities that expand your wealth. But when you embody emotions like insecurity, resentment, or desperation, your energy becomes repellent. People withdraw. They hesitate. They feel uncertain. Not because you consciously said anything wrong, but because your emotional frequency communicates scarcity. Humans read energy more accurately than words, and the quantum field reads energy with perfect precision. This is why emotional mastery is the foundation of wealth creation. Not because emotions are fluffy or mystical, but because emotions shape your energy. Your energy shapes your vibration. Your vibration shapes your timeline. Your timeline shapes your financial reality. When you begin consciously managing your emotions, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting to your external world and start creating it. You stop waiting for reassurance. You stop needing validation. You stop tying your worth to temporary circumstances. Instead, you begin generating a stable internal frequency of abundance that becomes your new baseline. And when abundance becomes your emotional baseline, the quantum money loop accelerates. You attract more wealth than you ever did through effort alone. You receive insights that once took months to uncover. You meet people who feel like destiny. Opportunities unfold with ease. You feel guided rather than lost, supported rather than stressed, connected rather than isolated. Emotional alignment with abundance doesn't just help you make more money. It transforms who you become in the process. You become someone who can sustain wealth, expand wealth, and grow wealth without fear of losing it. You become someone who trusts life, who trusts themselves, who trusts the quantum field. And that trust becomes the bridge between your internal world and the abundant reality waiting for you to step into it. This is the quantum money loop. Emotions become energy. Energy becomes vibration. Vibration becomes reality. Wealth is not a chase. It is a reflection. And when your emotional state circulates abundance into the field multiplies it and delivers it back to you in ways that feel miraculous, but are simply the natural consequence of alignment. Topic 10. The final quantum leap. choosing the reality where you are already wealthy. There is a moment in your journey toward abundance when everything you've learned, everything you've practiced, everything you've questioned, everything you've struggled through finally converges into one powerful truth. The version of you who is wealthy, prosperous, confident, abundant, and free already exists. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, not in theory. In the quantum field, that version of you is as real as the version sitting right here listening to this video. And the greatest leap you will ever take in your life is the decision to align with that version, to choose that timeline deliberately, fully, and without apology. This is the final quantum leap, the point where you stop trying to become wealthy and instead decide to step into the reality where you already are. Throughout your entire life, you have been conditioned to believe that your circumstances define you. You were taught to look at your bank account and assume it represents your worth. You were taught to look at failures and assume they reflect your potential. You were taught to measure yourself by outcomes instead of energy. But none of that was ever true. Your circumstances are not your destiny. Your past is not your identity. Your failures are not your definition. They are simply markers along the path of someone who is still learning how to engage with the quantum field, someone who is still learning how to choose, someone who is still discovering the power that has been inside them from the beginning. The truth is this: your financial reality is not created in the physical world first. It is created in the quantum world. It is shaped by your vibration, your focus, your beliefs, your identity, your emotions, your actions, and your alignment. Every wealthy person you admire, every entrepreneur, every innovator, every creator, every visionary did not step into abundance because they were lucky. They stepped into abundance because they aligned themselves with the version of reality where abundance was already available to them. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They didn't wait for a guarantee. They chose their timeline, held the frequency of that choice, and acted in alignment with it until the world reflected it back to them. If you look at someone like Oprah, Elon Musk, Walt Disney, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, or Sarah Blakely, you will see the same pattern. Each of them had a moment where the world doubted them, a moment where nothing pointed to success, a moment where fear was louder than clarity, a moment where the safe thing to do would have been to settle, retreat, shrink, or abandon the vision altogether. But they didn't. They held the vibration of the future they were choosing. They embodied the identity of the version of themselves who was already living in that future, and the quantum field eventually bent reality to match the clarity of their intention. That same power is available to you, not someday, not when you feel ready, not when you have more money, more time, more evidence, or more confidence. It is available now, in this moment, because the quantum field responds to who you decide to be now. Your future is not a distant promise. It is an energetic signature waiting for you to match it. When you understand this, something inside you awakens. You realize that you are not chasing abundance. You are remembering it. You are not creating prosperity. You are aligning with it. You are not hoping for wealth. You are stepping into the timeline of the version of you who already has it. This is the final leap, choosing the wealthier version of yourself with absolute certainty. And this leap does not require proof. It requires decision. It requires commitment. It requires the willingness to release the version of yourself who identified with struggle, the version who believed scarcity was normal, the version who thought money was hard, the version who doubted their power, their intuition, their worthiness, their potential. You cannot carry your old identity into your new reality. The leap requires letting go. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is creating space. When you release the fears, beliefs, memories, and emotional patterns that kept you aligned with scarcity, you create room for abundance to enter. You create an energetic opening. You create coherence. The universe cannot fill a full cup, but it can overflow an open one. And the moment you open yourself fully, the moment you say, "I choose abundance," the quantum field begins reorganizing itself around your new frequency. This is the miracle that people misunderstand. When someone experiences a sudden financial breakthrough, a promotion, a business opportunity, a creative idea, a partnership, a stroke of insight, it is not random. It is not luck. It is alignment snapping into place. It is the quantum field responding to a decision that was already made long before the results materialized. It is the universe saying, your frequency finally matches the reality you've been asking for. And once you match that frequency, reality shifts quickly. Sometimes instantly, sometimes gradually, but always inevitably. You may wonder, how do you sustain the version of yourself who is already wealthy? The answer is by living in coherence with that identity. Wealth is not something you chase, it is someone you become. When you wake up in the morning, you tune into that version of yourself. When you make decisions, you act from that version. When you feel doubt creeping in, you align with that version. When you face challenges, you remain anchored in the certainty of that version. Wealth becomes your emotional home, not a distant destination. And the more you practice inhabiting that identity, the more natural it becomes. Imagine a future version of yourself standing in front of you right now. Imagine the posture, the confidence, the clarity, the energy, the peace, the empowerment, the wisdom radiating from that version. That version is not separate from you. That version is your blueprint. That version is the frequency of your highest potential. And the only difference between you and that version is alignment. When you choose that timeline fully, when you commit to that identity completely, everything in your external world begins to shift to match it. The money, the opportunities, the relationships, the ideas, the momentum, the inspiration, the synchronicities, all of it rearranges around the vibration you hold with consistency. Life becomes magical, not because magic exists, but because alignment does. The quantum field is not mystical. It is responsive. You are not powerless. You are powerful beyond measure. You are not waiting for abundance. It is waiting for you. You are not becoming wealthy. You are remembering the version of yourself who already is. The final leap is not about doing more. It's about being more, being aligned, being intentional, being coherent, being connected to the reality you want with such devotion that nothing can pull you back into the old version of yourself. This is the moment when you stop asking, "How will it happen?" and start saying, "Of course it will happen." This is the moment when you stop doubting the universe and start partnering with it. This is the moment when you stop fearing the unknown and begin embracing possibility. This is the moment when the past loses its grip and the future becomes clearer than ever before. This is the moment when you choose abundance, not as a dream, but as an identity. And once chosen, it cannot be undone. You are not here by accident. You were drawn to this message because the wealthier version of you is calling you forward. You can feel it. You can sense it. You can almost touch it. That version is already alive in the quantum field, waiting for your alignment, waiting for your decision, waiting for your leap. And the moment you choose it, the universe will rise to meet you. Not slowly, not reluctantly, but with power, precision, synchronicity, and a momentum that feels like destiny itself. Choose your timeline. Choose your identity. Choose the reality where you are already wealthy. And when you do, the quantum field will move mountains to make that choice real. If this message awakened something inside you, if even one part of you felt the truth of what you heard today, then don't let this moment pass. This is your signal. This is your alignment. This is your quantum leap beginning right now. So take a breath, anchor this frequency, and if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because videos like this aren't just content, they are activations. And every time you return here, you strengthen that wealth identity, that abundant vibration, that powerful version of yourself that the universe is already responding to. Hit like if today's message resonated deeply with you. It tells the algorithm, and more importantly, it tells you that you're choosing the timeline of abundance. Share this video with someone you want to see rise with you, someone whose energy deserves to expand, someone who's ready for their own quantum shift. And finally, comment below. Tell me what part of this message spoke directly to your soul. Tell me what reality you are choosing from today forward. Your declaration is your activation, and your activation is your first step into the wealthier version of yourself. This is your moment. Claim it, step into it, and watch how the universe responds. Welcome to the Success and Prosperity Code. Your new reality starts now.